You know, ladies and gentlemen, I thought I'd talk about WWE. You know, a lot of things have been going on behind the scenes at WWE and on camera as well. And, well, let's just say not a lot of fans, if you will, are very happy about what's going on. You know, heck, even word going around is some of the backstage people working backstage are not too thrilled right now. Let me kind of look at it. Let me kind of try to see if I can kind of piece together what's going on. You see, right now we're at WrestleMania season. Basically, we are essentially 19 days away from WrestleMania. It's a little over 2 weeks. And so far we have 7 matches for Mania, which is good. It's a good amount right now. But usually you want to have 10. 10 or 8 or 12 or whatever it's going to take. Now, some people look at last night's Raw and they say it was one of the most horrible, most out-of-shape Raws that there is, or was. And a lot of people pretty much feel that without The Rock being there, that, you know, a lot of the superstars are upset. And rightfully so, maybe. But here's one of the big things I read about, and I'm sure a lot of you have heard about this. Basically, it sounds like that with the things kind of whacked out right now at times backstage, that a lot of the rumor going around, basically, the word going around and the rumor, is that a lot of the superstars, Cena, Punk, Orton, whoever, are trying to push to get some creative control over what they do and say out in the ring, or something like that, because of the situation right now. We also have heard that Vince McMahon is more hands-on recently with the departure of one executive creative producer, whatever. So, right now, basically the situation is it's unpredictable chaos in the backstage area. And that because of this Vince McMahon, and because of this unpredictable chaos, and the fact that Vince McMahon is pushing his backstage staff, his creative staff, what have you, to, you know, try to get some sense of order, try to get basically the mid-card for Mania in order, in sync, if you will, that what was reported about a month ago or so, if not a few weeks ago, seems to be coming to light, seems to be becoming a reality. And that is the fact that the creative staff, the creative writing staff, and the creative writers are mentally burnt out. Yeah, they're mentally burnt out. That's why you're hearing all these, reading about all these reports and rumors of, you know, like I said, the superstars like Cena and Punk and Orton and Sheamus and whoever else, trying to get some creative control over who they are, over their character and what they say. You know, it's because basically of the chaos with the creative staff and the fact that they are mentally burnt out. And you know what, I can't blame them for, you know, being burnt out. I don't know, I mean, they're being pushed to the limits. I mean, yes, I understand that Vince McMahon wants to give himself and perhaps the fans a good WrestleMania. I get that. But if I'm Vince McMahon, I have to allow my creative staff to kind of have a day off or so, maybe a week off. Let them write maybe a week, an extra week of programming. Give them that week to have a mental break so they can come back refreshed. You know, have a board meeting, do something. Like I said, allow them to write a week or a few weeks worth of writing, you know, to the point that they don't need no revision. Then allow them to have that rest of that week off. Allow them to basically just be like, okay, I'm going to, you know, basically allow them to go like, okay, I got this week off, I can rest my brain, I can relax, I can try to get some fresh ideas now. Because obviously right now a lot of people are saying that what you're seeing on TV is basically a result of the fact that the creative staff is being pushed to the limits, and that they need a mental break. It's kind of like with my mom and her fellow teachers at the preschool. Their Easter break, or resurrection break, if you will, is going to happen in the next few weeks. And basically, they're looking forward to that because they need that break. They need that mental and physical break to clear their minds and come back refreshed. It's kind of like with the Off the Rope show. You know, a lot of people were curious as to what happened to them. Well, obviously, apparently, they probably had some kind of storm happening, or apparently they just decided, you know what, we got to come back refreshed. Because some people have pointed out that the OTRS crew were looking a little burnt out with everything they've been doing. So apparently what they've done is they said, you know what, we're going to take a break from reviews, and we're going to, from my personal, from being a viewer myself, a fan of the OTRS myself, because the guys are basically my generation, what I'm looking at is a group of guys saying, you know what, we need to take a mental break. We could still do our Q&As. We could still do our triple threat deal, our triple threat videos. We could do our new series like retro reviews. But what they need is a mental break from reviewing so they can come back refreshed. It's kind of like with Doug Walker, the nostalgia critic. You know, he took a break from being a critic, probably we thought would be permanent, but knew the fans wanted him back and knew he had to come back, and realized the only reason he stopped doing critic is because he was mentally burnt out. And now he's come back and he's got more refreshed, more funny ideas. The same goes for the WWE creative staff. Basically what we're seeing on television is a result of them basically being mentally burnt out. They need a break. So my honest opinion is what they need to do is what they need to have Vince McMahon allow them to do is allow them to write an extra week of work, give them that week that extra week has been written for, give them that week off so they can come back refreshed. You know, just let them be, let them do their own thing. Or you know what, better yet, hire another writing staff so that 1 week they can write and stay in tune with what's going on while the other creative writing staff takes the week off. Or whatever. I mean, why do you think comics like the X-Men, Spider-Man, Superman, Batman, Teen Titans, Justice League, you know, Avengers, why do you think these comics are all successful? It's because they have different writers. Different writers always help keep the comic fresh. And that's what WWE needs to do. They either need to allow the creative staff to have 1 week off, basically write an extra week of programming and have that week they've written for off, or hire and bring in another creative writing staff so that you can give that creative writing staff on Raw and even on SmackDown a week to rest while the other staff comes in and takes over for them, continues on for them, and vice versa. You kind of get the idea. It would help them out tremendously. And I understand, you know, people will say, well, you can't really blame the creative staff. The heck you can't. I mean, you can't blame what's going on with the creative staff because of what's happening. Yes, you can. It's like when you're working on a job 24/7, well, not 24/7, but basically 5 days out of the week. It's like when you're working at a job for 6 to 8 hours, doesn't matter. And you're doing the same thing over and over. You're doing the same job over and over, and you're like, when am I going to have a break? When am I going to have a time to myself? When am I going to have a mental break? You know, because you're doing the same thing over and over. And eventually, when you finally do get that break, you go on your vacation, you take that vacation that you have, and you come back, you're refreshed, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm energized, I'm revitalized, time to get back to work, let's do it. You know, it's kind of like with kids. You know, it's kind of like with school, kids in school and in college. Anytime summer break comes around, they're like, oh, I can't wait for summer to come around. I'm going to have my vacation. And when they come back from that vacation, they're refreshed, they're revitalized because they've had time to mentally be ready. The same with teachers. Anytime a break comes around, when they get that break, they're mentally able to relax, if you will, and then they come back refreshed for the following semester or the following year. The point is that's what WWE needs to try to find to do, needs to learn to do. They either need to bring in another creative staff to take over for a week or two, while the other creative staff takes that week or 2 weeks off and off so they can come back mentally refreshed and ready to go. I know that sounds crazy, but what else can you think of besides, like I say, having them write a week or two worth of programming, give them that following week or two off so they can come back mentally refreshed. This is why Raw has been decent at times. You can't deny that. You cannot deny that it has been decent at times. Last night, I admit it was kind of unusual, but it was, they're doing the best they can. Whether you want to blame them or not, they're doing the best they can. But my honest thing is, right now, the creative staff needs to take a mental break. They need a long vacation, if not a week or 2 weeks worth of vacation. And if I'm them, I go up to Vince McMahon or Stephanie McMahon and I say, or Triple H, and I say, look, we have a compromise for you. Let us write out the next week or two's worth of programming. Go over it and all that, get it done with, and then those next 2 weeks that you use it in, allow us to have that time off, allow us to have that break, okay, to mentally, get our facilities back to normal. So, but to me, this is why WWE is in the kind of like the loop that is basically is in the current state that it is. That's why this title says my opinion on why WWE is in its current it's going to say why WWE is in the current state that it is, because basically is creatively in the state that it is, because creatively the writing team is not getting a break. You know what I'm saying? And it doesn't help sometimes when they come up with different ideas and gimmicks and storylines for characters that, hey, it sounds good on paper, but you got to follow up on because you're the one that came up with it. Now you got to follow up on it. You can't just simplify it by saying, here's Jack Swagger, the real American, come out with Zeb Colter. He's, basically, you can have, Jack Deeze's character, but simplify it to the point that it's like, okay, this guy doesn't like, basically come out and say what it is. It's a race. He's racist. That's all you have to do. It's simplified, and that it's simplified. All right, for the fans, people pretty much know what it's really about. There you go. The same with the Shield. The Shield's a great gimmick, better than the Aces and Eights and Scum as far as I'm concerned. But have the Shield at least simplify it. Have the Shield admit why they're doing this injustice, what the real reasons are. Because again, ladies and gentlemen, I just feel that creatively, WWE needs to let the creative writing staff have a break and come back refreshed. And either go with one of the options I said, either get a backup team in there to take over for them when they have to take time off, or let them write in advance. It works. Heck, when they do a double taping sometimes, it helps them out. You notice that 2 weeks later, sometimes that Raw is better than it was 2 weeks before, than 3 weeks before. And maybe, I think it'd be best, I will agree, if they reduced Raw back to 2 hours and not 3. I think that's one of the main reasons too. So that's all I'm going to say. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll talk to you all later.